Hello there.
Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi always had a difficult balancing act to follow. The series sets out to chronicle a major untold chapter in Obi-Wan's life, in the process revealing a big confrontation between the Jedi Master and his former apprentice that we never knew about. Rarely has a Star Wars spin-off had to work so hard to dance between the raindrops of the films. And as enjoyable as the series is, it doesn't so much answer lingering questions about the Anakin/Obi-Wan dynamic, as it creates more problems for the ever-expanding Star Wars mythos. Now that the series has wrapped, let's take a closer look at the major plot holes left dangling after the finale, and the series' biggest missed storytelling opportunity.
You have failed, Master.
It's been 10 years. I'm not who I used to be.
Crafting an Obi-Wan Kenobi story set during his exile on Tatooine isn't as straightforward as it sounds. That premise either requires the series to stick to a smaller-scale space western like we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, or somehow find a way of explaining how Obi-Wan could venture back into the wider galaxy without blowing his cover.
You coming or not?
This series deserves credit for taking the more ambitious road, but that decision creates some head-scratching plot holes by the time the final credits roll.
What are you doing here?
Over the course of the series, we see Obi-Wan evade the Sith Inquisitorius and square off with Darth Vader twice. In the end, Obi-Wan elects to spare his fallen apprentice's life once again
Goodbye, Darth.
and return to his hiding place. There's a pretty obvious concern here. Tatooine is no longer a very good hiding place. While only Reva seems to fully connect the dots between Obi-Wan's whereabouts and Anakin Skywalker's childhood home, it probably wouldn't take much digging for the other Inquisitors to realize where Obi-Wan has been all this time. What's to stop the Inquisitors from simply returning to the desert world and hunting down Obi-Wan all over again? The fact that he moved from his cave to the remote hut seen in Episode 4 hardly seems like enough to throw Vader's elite Jedi hunters off his scent. That's to say nothing of the problems posed by the fact that Reva is still alive and knows of Luke's parentage. The events of the series ensure that Obi-Wan is now a liability to Luke and his family rather than their guardian angel. His very presence on Tatooine is an ongoing threat to Luke's safety.
I thought you were gonna keep your distance.
For all that Star Wars fans have poked at Obi-Wan's decision to go into hiding without changing his or Luke's names, this series has just created a much bigger plot hole.
Take good care of him.
The finale tries to skirt around this through Vader's conversation with Emperor Palpatine. Palpatine shames Vader for becoming too preoccupied with his past.
Perhaps your feelings for your old master have left you weakened.
Which is apparently enough to make Vader ignore the humiliation of his second defeat for another 10 years. Are we really meant to believe that neither Vader nor anyone else in the Empire ever bothers to follow up on this loose end? What exactly is the point of the Inquisitorius if not to handle matters like this? The series could have easily sidestepped this problem by having Obi-Wan fake his death during his final confrontation with Vader.
Did you truly think that you could defeat me?
Then the Dark Lord of the Sith would be free to move on to other matters, and the series wouldn't have to jump through hoops to justify why the Empire stays away from Tatooine for another decade. Many of the larger plot holes in Obi-Wan Kenobi boil down to a simple question. Why didn't character A make sure character B was dead?
You should have killed me when you had the chance.
Reva betrays the Grand Inquisitor in Part 2, but settles for delivering a non-fatal stab wound.
Who's in the gutter now?
He and Vader then turn the tables on Reva in Part 5, with Vader dispatching the Third Sister in a similarly non-lethal manner. Vader comes off as downright incompetent for leaving Reva alive and allowing her to nearly murder his son. Because of storytelling choices like this, the series falls short of building up the mystique of Darth Vader in his supposed prime. Rogue One arguably accomplished far more with far less in that regard. Then there's Obi-Wan's questionable act of mercy in the finale. Just as in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan has the choice to kill Anakin but opts to walk away instead. No doubt the parallel is intentional, but it doesn't necessarily work in the show's favor. Obviously, the series had only so many options available, given that the two characters need to end up where they are in A New Hope.
The circle is now complete.
But where is the internal logic in Obi-Wan's act of mercy? Why leave Vader alive and free to continue terrorizing the galaxy? It's not as if Obi-Wan was specifically trying to spare Anakin's life on Mustafar. Part 2 reveals that Obi-Wan believed Anakin to be dead up until his encounter with Reva.
Lord Vader will be pleased. You didn't know.
When he left his former pupil burning alive in the lava fields of Mustafar, Obi-Wan clearly thought he was condemning Anakin to death. He showed no mercy then. If anything, he made a profoundly selfish choice.
You were my brother, Anakin!
He couldn't bring himself to kill his brother, so Obi-Wan instead left Anakin to die slowly and painfully, and ultimately cemented Anakin's transformation into a genocidal maniac. Knowing what he does now about Anakin's fate, why doesn't Obi-Wan try to correct his past mistake and put Anakin out of his own misery? Maybe Obi-Wan hasn't given up the notion that Anakin is the chosen one. No! Maybe he senses that the Force has a plan for this twisted, evil Sith Lord. The series doesn't dig deeper into these questions. The show had a rare opportunity to address a lingering mystery from Return of the Jedi. When Vader reunites with Luke on Endor, he admits, "Obi-Wan once thought as you do."
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
In that moment, Vader understands that Obi-Wan believed traces of Anakin Skywalker still exist within him, despite Obi-Wan revealing nothing of the sort during their showdown on Mustafar.
You are lost!
The Obi-Wan series could have earned its place in the canon by seizing on that mystery and exploring the significance behind Vader's words.
It is too late for me, son.
At one point, did he realize Obi-Wan thinks he can be redeemed? Heck, when did Obi-Wan himself come to that realization? He shows pity for Vader in the finale, but seems resigned to the idea that Anakin is well and truly dead.
Then my friend is truly dead.
He says as much when he mockingly refers to Anakin as Darth,
Goodbye, Darth.
echoing a similar exchange in A New Hope.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Even when he later appears as a Force ghost in the original trilogy, Obi-Wan seems far less concerned with Anakin's redemption than Luke's survival.
There is still good in him. He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
Two of the most iconic characters in the franchise had a reunion we never saw until now, yet it hardly seems to matter in the grand scheme of things. The finale leaves both Vader and Obi-Wan both pretty much where they were at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Vader is the brooding right-hand man to Emperor Palpatine, and Obi-Wan ventures into the desert to await Luke's coming. If Lucasfilm greenlights a second season, it needs to learn from the mistakes of the first. It's not enough to simply slide between the beats of the movies. A series like Obi-Wan Kenobi needs to have something truly new and meaningful to say about its main character.
I was always here, Obi-Wan. You just were not ready to see.
But what do you think? Did the Obi-Wan Kenobi series add important new layers to Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship?
Your strength has returned.
Or did it just create more problems for the saga?
But the weakness still remains.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And for all things Star Wars, make sure you like and subscribe to IGN wherever you watch.
Come on, you've got a ways to go.